Hey, what's going on, guys? It's me, Train Man, and welcome back to the Zombie Train, episode 152, isn't it? It's 152, which makes sense because fairly soon we'll have another run session. That run session is next week, which is Christmas Eve. Now, I'll remind you guys again on that week, but you might want to listen to the Terminus podcast that upcoming Saturday. Just saying. Anyways, this episode is all signaling, and I say that with 100% accuracy. That's all this is. Today, we have to go all the way up the map and all the way down the map, and in that time we will cover every single juncture where I originally put signals in the original or where signals were originally, and maybe even a little bit more than that. Now, the unsignaled sections were already taken care of, and now I realized that as I was trying to rerun this route, just dicking around, and just because people were, because people were wanting to use this route, it's kind of necessary to have signals all over the place, and especially for the upcoming Iron Horseman Chronicles recording. This upcoming week, despite the fact that it is a run session, I will have to work on this route a little bit, and that entails turning some of it. We have to winterize a section of the route, and that section of the route is between Troy and Layton, as well as Troy Yard, at least to an extent. Because it's not a particularly large section, it's not going to be released. It's not going to be in the final version of the map. It's not going to be really anything special. I'm just going to take a copy of this map and do that and then put it back. Now, if you recall last episode, when I was doing this, what I was doing was I was putting the signals and then immediately testing them with locomotives, and I realized that the testing wasn't working great, and the reason for that was we had no more signals down the line, so a lot of time it would just read red, and that was a problem. So I decided to go through and do the signals, from the ground up, get all the signals down, and then go over and fix them. And it led to us placing a lot of the same signals twice, but we were going to have to do that anyways. That's kind of how it worked. Also, I was being a little bit more careful with the placement in terms of being able to see the signals when you're coming around a corner and whatnot. And at the end of the episode, I do something that I typically don't like to do, but I'll talk to you about that when we get there. We've got these signal bridges that I left in place. I utilize most of them. One of them I get rid of, but that one was already utilized. We're going to have to adjust some track work over there, I would wager. That's towards the end of the episode, you'll see. So, that means half of this is signaling and half of it is resignaling. And, it's all resignaling because we've already done this before. But we've got to do it again. Now, this area was the most awkward to signal and to signal check. And the reason that Sugar Creek is awkward is because it's a Y that's kind of built weird. And the AI has had more trouble here than anywhere else on the route, which is why it went through several iterations of track work, and is actually far more complicated than it originally was, and you'd think that would hurt the AI, but giving them more paths through an area will sometimes help them. Now, you'll notice I moved this signal bridge, and the reason I did that is because I wanted it ahead of those crossings. I was tempted to delete one of them, but instead I decided to leave it there because it allowed two different paths to happen at the same time. Now, here we go. We're actually getting farther along in a short amount of time. This was grueling when I was doing it on my own, and by the time I'd reached Davenport here, I was kind of done. But I had a lot more work to take care of. So we didn't put a lot of signals in Davenport. I sort of left it unsignaled for now, and I'm doing that for sanity's sake a little bit because, to be honest, it's not usually necessary to have signals in the industrial park. You're gonna know what's coming in and out, and if you've got more than one engine shuffling around there, it's kind of, well, it's not going to be hugely convenient to work with anyways, although I cite the first episode of the Iron Horseman Chronicles as to why that can be helpful. It's just not always helpful. So anyways, now we start testing these signals, and what I want is I want the upper light lit when the main line is shown, and I want the bottom light lit when a diverging line is shown. Now I didn't check for the latter case. I just made sure that the light on top was lit when it was the main line, and I mean only the light on top. Oftentimes I use the latter case to check for the former case, like if I plopped down an engine and both of the lights lit up, then I would throw the switches to see, okay, it's going to change probably to a more cautionary light, which will probably just be one light, and if it's on the bottom, then it's wrong, and I just switch that signal. Now, once again, Sugar Creek was confusing me here, and I was going back and forth throwing things, and that signal right there was just being a bastard. So eventually, I went and replaced it with a single. And see, you notice I swapped it with a double there, and I was still trying to check because it wouldn't differentiate between one direction and the other. So I put a double up there. Anyways, here we are outside of Sugar Creek. Actually, no, we're inside of Sugar Creek. I'm looking out this way. And we had all of them set up just there, checking these signals, checking that signal. When I go over this route, and I'll try to do a little bit more testing, and I certainly will be doing more testing while recording, of course. If I find a problem, I'll generally notate it, and then, carry on fixing that later. No, the top light is the primary, this bottom light is diverging, and some have 3 stacked, and I assume that just means another diverging route. You'd probably have to know the nuances of that signal area to understand that exactly. Thankfully, these are just simple searchlights. I was doing this with the dartboards a little while ago. And by a little while ago, I mean when I was building Lee's line, I was doing this with the dartboards. And it was the kind of thing where you really had to be able to wrap your head around dartboards to understand what the heck was going on there. Although, because Trains is Trains, you can't exactly show all of these super complicated dartboard setups. You can't show all the different ways that they could light up. Now, oh, sorry, I got confused. You can't show all the different ways they can light up, and it basically just comes out to be a position searchlight. And, that's not too far from what dartboards are, or, position lights are anyways. They're just position-based signals. But it uses the same types of aspects, same medium approach, limited approach, this, that, the other. And, even though some signals can display more than others, you don't get to necessarily do all of the different things that a dartboard could do. Especially if you were to pull out one of the weird dartboards. And I'm not sure if they're even available in Trains, but the PRR did some very strange things with their signals. And some of them still exist today. I don't mean dartboards in general, I mean some of these super out there types of signals. Now, this is another why, and the track work here is awful. I'll be completely honest, the track work in this area is pretty abysmal, because everything's very crunched in together, and it went through my construction of it, and then Jader's construction of it, and then my reconstruction of it. Or, no. Milky was first. He gave this to me. I edited it. I sent it to Jader, who redid it. Then I redid it, and then he redid it again. And I don't mean redid, I just mean that it was slightly edited each time, and each time it got different. And so you had a lot of things where I would basically make a mess, and I'd send it to Jader, and he'd clean up my mess. But the reason I made a mess was because you had to get from point A to point B, so I ended up throwing in a couple of tracks that are really awkward. For example, the one track that cuts from the engine house directly to the diverging part of the Y. But You know, that's beside the point. The place is different now. I got rid of the other crossover that was on that side of the tunnel because it was superfluous. And here I believe we only have one crossover. Oh wait, no, the other one is on the other side of the dam. There it is. I tossed a couple of these in here. We're going to have to do more work on the dam area. Fortunately, it isn't featured in anything just yet. And I've got 2 weeks to clean up, or, 2 weeks after the first episode of Season 1B airs, in order to take care of this, whatchamacallit, in order to take care of this mess. That is the gorge. And I don't need to do most of it. A lot of it's terrain work that I will begrudgingly get to eventually. I don't want to sentence anyone to it. I would feel bad. Even Jader. Because it's mostly mountains. I know he doesn't like that. So we were coming through Wyvern here, and I was going, okay, that's just about everything. We've got almost all the signals taken care of. And then I realized, oh, we didn't do the branch line. And the coal line, I mean. The branch line itself is just fine. The branch line is not signaled. Excuse me. And there was a little autosave there. These guys took a while. They seem to be taking longer and longer, which is unsurprising, considering the map is getting larger and larger and more detailed. The amount of assets in this map is getting kind of astounding. I believe a dependency packet would be well over 1 gigabyte. So that's very, very significant. Anyways, I'm using regular old signals where I can now. And those signals right there, I don't think I went through and figured out, actually. So that one I checked. I went back there to check on those and didn't. So, oh well. We end up scooting all the way down this line here to the first, well, to the only passing sighting that's here. And just throwing in some singular signals to take care of it, and then go up here to make sure that everything's alright up at the coal mine. Which it is, it's just fine. And, after adjusting and adding a couple of minor signals, I decided, well, those are some very long stretches out signals. I'm going to do bidirectional signaling on this part, which normally I don't like at all, but you shouldn't have more than one train coming this way, and I might change this later, but you should not have more than one train moving on this portion of the line at a time. And yeah, no, trains is weird. The AI would botch that, I have no doubt. They can't really handle passing sightings too much. Either way, I figured I had some extra time in this episode, so what I did was, well, I decided to build these catenaries here, and of course, I had to build them the wrong direction, because in the normal direction, the poles would be in the middle of the middle track. I don't know. It was weird. And also I had to sort of ignore the fact that the bridge was there until I found one that was just wires. And it still looks stupid, but at least there are wires. That wasn't it. That wasn't it. That was it. There we go. And then I continued moving on with this one.